Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Forgive me for diverging from the primary focus of this hearing, but it occurs to me that each of you has significant persuasive influence on where the new Space Command will be headquartered, so I'm going to touch on that just for a moment. In that vein, I hope you will help make Redstone Arsenal a finalist in the Space Command headquarters debate. Redstone Arsenal has a lot to offer. We have related to Space Command, either related a lot or related a little, the following Space Command activities. United States Army Aviation and Missile Command, Aviation and Missile Research Development and Engineering Center, PEO Missiles and Space, United States Army Space and Missile Command, Army Forces Strategic Command, United States Missile Defense Agency, Defense Intelligence Agency Missile and Space Intelligence Center, NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, which is the home and birthplace of America's space program, a wealth of intellectual talent, engineers. We have the highest concentration of engineers in the United States of America, physicists, mathematicians, scientists. In conclusion, I hope you will concur that Redstone Arsenal and the Space Command seem like an excellent fit. Now, with that sales pitch behind me, let's go more to the substance of this particular hearing. I do appreciate your indulgence, and I know y'all all have persuasive influence on the ultimate outcome of that Space Command location debate. I know that the Department of Defense has done some interim work with the Federal Aviation Administration on SSA. With respect to Jim Bridenstine's Space Renaissance Act from last Congress that put the one-stop shop for commercial space at the Department of Transportation, not the Department of Commerce, what would be your insight on your perspective on where we're looking at now?
A great question. As you just recognized, I have in the past sponsored legislation, authored legislation to have the one-stop shop be at FAA AST, especially taking AST and moving it out of the FAA and making it a direct report to the Department of Transportation, specifically to the Secretary. So that was legislation that I ran a couple of years ago to really force the conversation about this kind of activity and how important it is. Now, I'll also tell you, as a member of the Science Committee, Space Subcommittee specifically, I have voted multiple times on the American Space Commerce Free Enterprise Act, which puts this at commerce. So my views on this, of course, have shifted, but I think more importantly than anything else, it has to be done. And it doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter so much where, just the fact that we don't have time to waste anymore. And if we get caught in whether it's a parochial issue or a jurisdictional issue among committees, we get this, and this thing gets held up for a year or two, we're at risk, especially when you consider the large constellations that are going to be put into low Earth orbit. I think Secretary Ross has made a compelling argument for why it should be commerce. I fully support that, and I'm ready to move out on it.
General Hyten, question for you, but first a comment. It's always good to see someone with the success that you've enjoyed from my hometown, Huntsville, Alabama. So anytime you get a chance to come back, we've got over 100 generals who have retired there. I'm sure you'd be welcome too when that time comes.
Are you trying to retire me, Congressman?
This question is for you. What is your assessment today of the Department of Commerce's ability to manage these authorities, and do they have the proper resources and personnel needed to manage these authorities? And if not, what is your opinion on what is needed to get them there?
So I guess if it's a yes-no question, which you just asked, then the answer is no, they don't have all the things they need to do. But Secretary Ross realizes that, and he has committed inside the National Space Council, he's committed to me at breakfast this morning that he's going to identify the right people if he has to go down this path and put those people at this job. His folks have been unbelievably transparent and helpful in defining what this space traffic management piece would be in the Department of Commerce. They've been straightforward. So he does not have all the issues he has or he'll need to do that job in the future. But he is committed to making sure that he identifies those and pursues those. I'm sure he'll be working with you on that issue in the future.
Well, with respect to Secretary Ross and General Hyten and, of course, Jim Bridenstine, I happen to serve on the I'm vice chair of the Space Subcommittee of SST, and I'm also on the Strategic Forces Committee of House Armed Services Committee. So if there's anything I can do to help ensure that the Department of Commerce has the resources it needs, please let me know in wearing one hat or the other. Mr. Chairman, I yield back the remainder of my time.